You were saying?
Oh, she's talking a lot of shit right now.
Oh yeah. Stop, babe. We will get to you. No. 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 Okay. I'm just making sure you had something to say.
Don't get bold.
Very. I did all this without my baby daddy. I did all this without an ex-boyfriend, a current boyfriend, because I don't have one. A nigga in my inbox. Everything that I got, I did by myself. Any motherfucker that enters my life and decides to provide for me and mine, that's cool. A bitch still got her own money. I can still take a nigga if I'm fucking on him out on a date if I choose to. Because I like to spoil me and mine. Let me go ahead and say the last thing before I hop the fuck up off of here. Since I have to fucking deal with stupid ass shit, I decided I wasn't gonna revert back to my old ways. But since motherfuckers keep thinking I'm pussy, I got to. I'm gonna have to just not.
This is Alexis Douglas, a 29-year-old mother of two from Nashville, Tennessee, a woman who fought tooth and nail to save the lives of her and her kids from her abusive ex-boyfriend. But she would be found dead in her own apartment on December 21st, 2020.
Hey y'all. Okay, so we are literally less than an hour away from tryouts. That's how I feel. So it'll be at Hadley Park. You'll be able to see us at the picnic area when you first come into Hadley. It was not by the center. It's at the close to the baseball field. So if anybody knows where the Hadley Park baseball field is, that's where we'll be at for signups today. I'm excited. I'm super excited. Like, I cannot wait to meet you guys. Can't wait to meet your children. Can't wait to see if you guys have any questions or concerns. We're gonna still have tryouts today. I know the rain kind of put a damp on some stuff, so we're gonna also do tryouts tomorrow. So we'll probably do them at the same time from 5 to 8. Just so that everyone who didn't get to try out today can try out tomorrow. No issues. But we are excited to meet you guys. We're also excited to announce that we are the cheer stars of Nashville.
To understand how someone can walk into your home and end your life while your children sleep in the next room, we need to go back to where this nightmare actually began. Because Alexis's story is one about a woman who tried everything to escape, and the system that failed to protect her when it mattered most. Alexis was born on November 16, 1991, right here in Nashville, and by her mid-20s, she was already navigating the complicated reality of being a young mother to two small children, ages 5 and 6. Their father was a man named Samia Boyce Jr., and if you scrolled through Alexis's Facebook page in those final months of her life, you'd see she wasn't holding back about how she felt about him. She posted openly about her frustrations, writing things like, "How you keep putting women before your child is beyond me. You are seriously a joke," and calling him her biggest regret, specifically referring to him as an F-boy who prioritized everything except his responsibilities as a father. These weren't just vague complaints, because Alexis was drowning in the reality of single motherhood, carrying the weight of two young lives while dealing with a co-parent who she felt was absent in every way that mattered. She accused him of dishonesty, of being bitter, of wanting her to be a stereotypical angry baby mama so badly that he would lie about her. Oh baby, the lies people tell. What a day to start Oh F-boy, as a dishonest Boyce himself wanted a bitter baby mama so bad he had to lie on my name, she wrote in one particularly raw post. But Samia Boyce Jr. wasn't the real danger in Alexis's life. That distinction belonged to another man entirely, someone she had been entangled with for 5 to 6 years in what can only be described as a cycle of control, abuse, and terror. His name was James Reitenauer, and their relationship was characterized by both emotional and physical abuse that spanned the better part of a decade. According to arrest affidavits and testimony from people who knew them both, James subjected Alexis to mental and physical harm repeatedly, creating a pattern that anyone familiar with domestic violence would recognize immediately. The relationship was on and off, which is typical in these situations, where victims try to leave but feel pulled back by manipulation, fear, or false promises of change. When Alexis finally decided she was done for good, she took steps to protect herself. She blocked her phone numbers and told friends and family she wanted nothing to do with him anymore. But James wasn't about to let her go that easily. Family members reported to police that he circumvented her attempts to cut contact by getting new phone numbers and continuing to harass her. This is textbook stalking behavior, the kind that escalates and becomes increasingly dangerous the more the victim tries to establish boundaries. Alexis knew he was still out there trying to reach her and unable to accept that she had moved on. Yet, despite knowing the kind of person he was and what he was capable of, she made one critical mistake that would ultimately cost her everything. She never changed the locks on her apartment door. By late 2020, Alexis had found something she probably thought she'd never have again: genuine happiness. She had started dating a new man named Gene Fernandez, who was also 29 years old, and for the first time in what must have felt like forever, she was experiencing the kind of relationship she deserved. She shared joyful TikTok videos with Gene, moments of lightness and laughter that showed a woman who was finally moving past all the trauma and drama.
You were saying?
She's talking a lot of shit right now.
Oh, yeah. Stop, babe. Look at you. No. 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 Okay. I'm just making sure you had something to say.
Oh, don't get bold.
Very. Anyway. See you in the food court, babe. That's what you get for messing with me. You started it. I'm gonna finish it every single time.
No, you're not.
Every single time?
Finish everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Her social media presence shifted from angry posts about deadbeat dads and toxic exes to content that reflected hope and actual joy. Her friends and family described her as devoted, resilient, someone who was determined to build a better life for herself and her children despite everything she had been through. She had even started a small business called Fancy Funnels, selling funnel cakes, trying to create financial independence alongside her emotional freedom. But while Alexis was building this new life, James Reitenauer was watching, and he was not okay with any of it. December 21st, 2020 started like any normal evening for Alexis. Her 2 young children were in the apartment, and she was spending time with Gene Fernandez. They were relaxing on the couch in her apartment at Terrace Park Towns on Elm Hill Pike in the Donaldson neighborhood of Nashville, probably winding down from the day, completely unaware that in just moments their entire world was about to explode into violence. It was around 11:45 at night when they heard the sound of a key turning in the lock and the door opening. And then, standing in the doorway of Alexis's own home was James Reitenauer, holding the key he kept from when they were together, the one Alexis never thought to make him return and never changed the locks to prevent him from using. Reports indicate that James said these chilling words, "I bet you forgot I had this," referring to the key, before he started shooting. Can you imagine the terror in that moment? The realization that the person you've been running from has been able to access your home this entire time. James immediately opened fire on both of them, and Alexis was struck multiple times, her body absorbing bullets meant to end her life in the place she should have been safest. Jean Fernandez was also shot, wounded but somehow still conscious and able to process what was happening even as the violence unfolded. When police arrived at the scene, Alexis was pronounced dead right there, and Jean Fernandez was rushed to Vanderbilt University Medical Center for treatment. Despite being shot, he was alert enough to provide crucial information to investigators. He identified James Reitenauer as the shooter, giving police the immediate lead they needed to start building their case. The children were asleep in another room and didn't witness the shooting directly and were placed with relatives immediately following the incident. But here's where the investigation took a bizarre and deeply troubling turn. The Metro Nashville Police Department initially issued warrants for the wrong person. They went after Samia Boyce Jr., Alexis's other ex and the father of her children, based on a witness who had given them incorrect information. The police released his name and photo, putting him in danger and destroying his reputation before they had even bothered to properly investigate. After interviewing Boyce and reviewing the actual evidence, authorities realized they had made a massive mistake and withdrew the warrants. The focus finally shifted to where it should have been from the beginning, on James Reitenauer, the man with the documented history of abusing Alexis, the one Jean had identified as the shooter and whose behavior had been escalating for months. But by this point, James was gone. He had disappeared after the shooting, knowing exactly what he had done and understanding that he needed to avoid capture. And this is where the case sat for months. Alexis was laid to rest after public viewings held on January 3, 2021 at Smith Directors in Nashville. Her name was added to the National Gun Violence Memorial as another life lost too soon and a victim of intimate partner violence that turned deadly. The case became part of a larger and deeply disturbing trend. Nashville saw its homicide rates rise in 2020, with many of those deaths tied to domestic disputes. Alexis's murder was one of many, a statistic in a year that saw too much violence, too many families destroyed, too many women killed by men who claimed to love them. While Alexis's family grieved and tried to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives, James Reitenauer remained at large. The U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force got involved, dedicating resources to tracking him down. And after 8 months of searching and wondering if he would ever face justice, they finally found him on August 24, 2021. James was arrested at a relative's home on Tucker Road in Nashville. He was 27 years old at the time, and he was charged with first-degree murder and attempted murder. James was held without bond at the downtown detention center, finally off the streets and unable to hurt anyone else while he waited for his day in court. Justice moves slowly, and for Alexis's family, the wait must have been excruciating. From James's arrest in August 2021 to the actual trial, nearly 4 years would pass. The trial finally took place in May 2025 in Judge Jennifer Smith's courtroom. The proceedings featured testimony from Jean Fernandez, who had to recount the night he watched the woman he cared about get murdered right in front of him. Jean's testimony was crucial because he could identify James as the shooter with absolute certainty. This wasn't a question of who did it. It was about proving intent, showing the jury that this was premeditated murder and that James had gone to that apartment specifically to kill Alexis because he couldn't handle the fact that she had moved on. Alexis's friends, family, and even detectives also testified about the history of abuse that had characterized their 5 to 6 year relationship. The jury heard about the physical violence, the mental manipulation, the pattern of control that had defined their time together. They heard about how Alexis had tried to escape, how she had blocked his numbers and told people she was done with him. They heard about how none of that mattered to James, who saw her attempts at independence as a personal affront that needed to be punished. On May 14, 2025, after hearing all the evidence, the jury reached their verdict. They found James Rittner, now 31 years old, guilty on both counts: first-degree premeditated murder and premeditated attempted first-degree murder. The murder conviction came with an automatic life sentence, meaning James would spend the rest of his life in prison. Alexis's family expressed profound emotion following the verdict. After nearly 5 years of waiting, they finally had some measure of justice, though nothing could bring Alexis back or undo the trauma her children had experienced. But here's what makes Alexis's case even more devastating. She wasn't alone. Her murder was part of a disturbing pattern of domestic violence homicides happening in Nashville, cases so similar to hers that they could almost be carbon copies of each other. Less than a year after Alexis was killed, another young Nashville woman named Michaela Carter, just 24 years old, was shot and killed in her Antioch home by her ex-boyfriend, James Leggett. The similarities between the two cases are very chilling. Michaela had endured physical abuse during their relationship, including an assault to allegedly beat her with a glass bottle. She did what victims are told to do, ended the relationship, filed for an order of protection, and even tried to use the legal system to keep herself safe. But Leggett violated that protection order, broke into her home, and shot her. A 911 call captured her final moments, with Michaela heard pleading, "Help me, Lord," as the attack unfolded. Think about that. She had a court order. She had done everything right, and still the system failed to protect her, just like it failed to protect Alexis. What happened next is significant. Michaela's mother, Kimberly Jones Mabui, sued the Metro Nashville Police Department for negligence, claiming officers failed to respond adequately to reports of Leggett's threats and violations of the protection order. The lawsuit described the police inaction as deeply disturbing and predictably fatal negligence, and in February 2024, they reached a settlement of $250,000.
Continuing coverage, an egregious failure on behalf of Metro Police, and now Metro government is paying a victim's family for a botched domestic violence response that resulted in one woman's murder. In 2021, Michaela Carter had an order of protection against her estranged husband, James Leggett. Shortly after Leggett's release from jail, he made persistent threats. Michaela did the right thing. She called police, but just minutes after the responding police officer left her home, police say Leggett showed up and gunned down Michaela. Metro acknowledged the error, admitting the officer did not follow proper protocol to protect the victim. Along with improving the policy, Tuesday, council members voted to compensate the victim's family the maximum city payout of $250,000.
We are happy about the policy changes, but of course, we do wish that they could have been implemented before November 15th of 2021, the day Michaela was taken from us and the day that we were failed tremendously by Metro Nashville Police Department. These policy changes are only a part of the solution. We need every officer to respond to every domestic violence call with compassion, with empathy, and with intention.
Council members agreed the payment would never be enough, and some members are now vowing to ensure the responding officer is removed from office.
But more importantly, the settlement mandated policy changes. Now, officers are required to activate body cameras during interactions with domestic violence victims and issue alerts for individuals violating protection orders. The pattern continues because in January 2023, 24-year-old Irene Torres was stabbed to death in her Old Hickory home by her ex-boyfriend, Dwayne Harold Jr., an MMA fighter. He killed her in her own home in the early morning hours, then moved her body to his apartment and hid it in a plastic container in his closet.
Police have released new details about the death of a 24-year-old woman whose body was found inside a plastic container Sunday night. Police say Irene Torres' ex-boyfriend killed her at her home in Old Hickory, then drove her to his apartment in Bellevue, where officers found her body. Nikki McGee spoke with people who knew both the suspect and victim, who say they are in shock.
Friends of both in shock tonight. 24-year-old Irene Torres brutally stabbed to death, and her ex-boyfriend, 28-year-old Dwayne Harrell Jr., now behind bars.
It blows my mind because I never, ever would expect anything like this from Dwayne. He's just such a nice person. You know, he would always go out of his way to help people.
Harrell, a competitive MMA fighter, is now charged with criminal homicide after Torres was discovered in his closet. Her former co-workers at Florida brewery Helen Blazes say her life was taken too soon.
You know, I wouldn't say she was like a jokester funny. It was just funny because she was just so like innocent. You know, she was just like that innocent person that like it was just fun to be around. She brought up the room.
Sunday morning, Torres' parents checked security footage outside her Old Hickory home and saw Harrell taking her away. Police say Harrell originally lied to police, saying he hadn't seen her. He later confessed to Torres' dad, and her body was found inside his Bellevue apartment.
It almost doesn't even seem real at this point. Like, you know, like it's just, we're all devastated here, you know, because she had such a bright future for such a young, positive person that it's just ridiculous.
Harrell's former coach says Dwayne now has some major soul searching to do.
It's amazing how people can, you know, look you in your eyes, be a nice person, and then turn around and be something else behind closed doors.
Nikki McGee, News 2.
Police say Torres was killed between 1:30 and 2 early Sunday morning. Harold Jr. is currently being held without bond.
Stuffed in a closet in Bellevue. For the first time today, Irene Torres' ex-boyfriend was in court. Her loved ones heard disturbing testimony. News 2's Nikki McGee reports on today's hearing.
Through white noise in court on Wednesday, you can hear faint screams as home surveillance footage played for the judge and defense. Police say it shows Dwayne Harrell Jr. allegedly stabbing Irene Torres after she returned home from work in Old Hickory.
They got into an argument and he began stabbing her. And after stabbing her, he put her in the trunk of his car.
Both Harrell and Torres worked at a bar on Broadway. Wednesday, dozens of co-workers on top of rows of family members showed up to court, enduring shocking details hard to sit through.
I was told while I was standing there with the doctor that she was stabbed in excess of 17 times.
Detectives say before Harrell drove Torres to his apartment, he stopped at a dumpster behind a grocery store where police found bloody pants in Torres' purse. But they say he lied to them when he told them the murder weapon was there. Eventually, they did find Irene after police say Harrell confessed to her dad.
We went to the closet area and I could see the victim inside of a clear tote. Looked like she was wrapped in some type of comforter.
Details Torres' sister tells News 2 are still too shocking for family to talk about. But as the case heads to a grand jury, they hope to one day see justice. Nikki McGee, News 2.
Just 7 months later, in June 2023, 44-year-old Emily Bradley was found dead in Whites Creek, allegedly killed by her ex-boyfriend Miles Williams, and he had been missing since then.
Body was found in a creek 1 month ago, but Emily Bradley's killer is still out there, leaving loved ones eager for closure. Thank you for joining us for News 2 at 4. I'm Mark Kelly. Stephanie Langston has been covering the story from the start and has the latest on their quest for answers.
Our hearts are broken.
Connected now only through spirit.
Emily was a bright light. She was the kindest, most loving person.
Judy Rose holds on to hope while embracing Emily's service dog.
We feel her spirit every day. Every day.
Judy's relentless quest to find 44-year-old Emily Bradley when she disappeared February 18th ended downstream.
Unfortunately, somebody, somewhere, decided to end her life in a brutal and senseless manner, and it's something that we'll never understand.
Sunday will mark 1 month since Metro Police say someone found Emily's body here in Whites Creek. The medical examiner saying she suffered from blunt force trauma. And while her car was recovered a couple of days later, loved ones say they've heard little updates in the case since.
But each day goes on, it's grueling. And we just don't want Emily's name to be forgotten. We don't want her face to be forgotten. We don't want her legend to be forgotten. And we don't want her case to fall behind the back burner or under the rug.
Metro Police Friday saying Emily's homicide is still a very active investigation.
We'll never stop fighting.
This weekend, a push for justice as the life of a Nashville event promoter is celebrated. The body of 44-year-old Emily Bradley was found in a creek in North Nashville back in March. There are still no arrests in the homicide case. News 2's Stephanie Langston has been covering this story from the beginning and has the latest details.
These are the bumper stickers that are being handed out at a number of events this weekend being held in honor of Emily Bradley's life, reflecting her vivacious personality. Emily was full of life, a lover of music whose spirit often radiated on the dance floor. So DJs have come in from across the country to take part in her celebration of life.
It'll be a party. It will be a party. It'll be a dance party with electronic music and dancing, and everybody will have a big time because that's what she would do and that's what she would want done.
Emily's memory now marked by a jeweled cross bearing her initials on the side of Buena Vista Pike within eyesight of where her body was found in the creek on March 2nd. The medical examiner's office said it appears Emily died of blunt force trauma. Her father believes she was likely a victim of domestic violence. Hopeful their tragedy will serve as a wake-up call to others in toxic relationships.
And then there's the case of Christine Estock, a 48-year-old woman who was shot while she slept on a sofa in her boyfriend Ronnie Phillips's Donaldson home in 2022. Phillips, who was 70 years old at the time, received a phone call that made him jealous, and he responded by shooting her, then holding his actual girlfriend at gunpoint. In May 2025, the same month James Rittner was convicted, Phillips was also found guilty and sentenced to life. The jury deliberated for just 1 hour.
A man is sentenced to life in prison. A jury convicted him of murdering his ex-girlfriend's aunt. Christine Estock was shot and killed 3 years ago. She was staying at Ronnie Phillips' home in Donaldson. He was dating Estock's niece at the time. Police say he shot Estock while she was sleeping on the couch. He also threatened to kill his girlfriend. Phillips was found guilty of premeditated murder along with kidnapping and assault.
Do you see the pattern here? Woman after woman, killed in their own homes or shortly after leaving toxic relationships. Ex-boyfriends who couldn't handle rejection, who viewed their former partners as possessions rather than people. Nashville saw its homicide rates rise significantly in 2020, with many of those deaths tied to domestic disputes. The statistics from domestic violence advocacy groups are clear. Women are at the greatest risk of being murdered when they're leaving abusive relationships. That moment when they finally decide they deserve better, start building a new life, or even dare to be happy with someone else, that's when they're most vulnerable. Alexis was killed with her new boyfriend sitting right next to her. Michaela was killed after getting a protection order. The separation period, which should be the beginning of healing, often becomes the most dangerous time. James is currently serving his life sentence, which is exactly where he belongs. But for Alexis's children, now preteens, the impact of losing her mother this way will follow them forever. According to some accounts, Samia Boyce Jr. worked to rebuild a positive relationship with at least one of the children after Alexis's death, perhaps recognizing that whatever problems existed between him and Alexis, those kids needed stability and love more than ever. The only small comfort is that James Rittner will never walk free again. He took Alexis's life, and in doing so, he gave up his own. But that doesn't bring her back. It doesn't undo the trauma for her children or Jean or her family. And it doesn't change the fact that there will be more women like Alexis, like Michaela, like Irene, like Emily, like Christine, unless we fundamentally change how we protect victims of domestic violence. Her story needs to convince someone else in a similar situation to change those locks, to take that restraining order seriously, to understand that leaving is often the most dangerous time, and to do everything possible to protect themselves before it's too late.
You is silly girl. It is something wrong with you. Abby cannot save you now. She said Abby saved me like she can really save her.
Do you think James would have still murdered Alexis even if she had changed the locks? Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.